This is another Procter & Gamble South Africa and We Connect International in South Africa webinar in our series where we're going to have 10 webinars with P&G experts. So today we have another P&G expert. We're really delighted to have a lady who's worked with us last year to work with women business owners, and you're going to hear a level of expertise as she introduces herself. She will talk about the future of work. Year 2020 and COVID-19 has fast-tracked us into futures we previously just talked about that have a big impact on the way we work. I'm going to hand straight over to Mikhail, who will take us through housekeeping and then do the introductions. Over to you, Mikhail.
Thank you, Jean. Hi, everyone. I'm Mikhail. I manage media purchasing for P&G SA. I also head up the BEE side of preferential procurement and supply and enterprise development. Thanks for having me on today. And just a few reminders. One would be to keep your mics muted so we avoid background noise. And two would be to please send through any questions you have into the chat so Alvira and I can touch on it. So Alvira, it's yours now.
So thank you very much, Mikhail, and thank you, Jean, for allowing me this opportunity again this year. I believe I did it last year for the first time. I had a lot of fun. Not that that should be first, but it usually is first for me. I had a lot of fun because I know that the people that I was engaging with were leaders in their own right, and it's always so inspiring to work with women leaders across. So just a little bit about myself. I don't think we have it on screen. So my name is Alvira Engelbrecht. I'm currently the D&I leader for P&G South Africa. I also have HR responsibilities for the biggest function in the organization, the sales organization. And also under that, I have, along with Mikhail and others, part responsibility for specific BEE components. Yeah, so that's where I am right now. I've been with P&G for about 18 months. Prior to that, very big HR generalist portfolio across the years. I think I've been in HR just over 15 years. As I said at our session last year, I stopped counting at 15 and I will remain at 15. Otherwise, I'd be giving my age away. So yeah, I started out in HR with EdCon. So for those that don't know that EdCon is in a lot of trouble, back in the day, about 15, 16, 17 years ago, EdCon was sort of a leader in the FMCG market. Started with them, opened Canal Walk as an HR assistant, moved on through the HR portfolios, spent 3 years in Cape Town, and then moved up to Johannesburg, to Pretoria, became what is called then an HR consultant. And I dealt with all the what's considered discount division stores, so your Jet, your Massmart, at that time still Sales House, and I think Cuthbert's. So managed those stores, coming from Cape Town to Pretoria, huge adjustment. The experience that I gained there was a lot in labor relations. I think I had my first sit-in. So for the HR professionals on the call, you would know that that's probably one of the most daunting things that can happen to you when you have a sit-in on your watch in your store. So then moved on to a couple of roles at head office. I was the HR person responsible for moving Boardmans from Pick n Pay to EdCon. Dealt with all of the labor relations issues around that and the move. So my strengths definitely talent management, development, and then labor relations. And now I'm adding to the portfolio with my P&G role in diversity and inclusion. So that is about me, and I'm looking forward to today talking about things that aren't yet here, but is so important during this time, the workforce of the future. So thank you for having me. Next slide, Mikhail. Next slide. So I can see that we have a number of participants on the call. In the ideal world, sorry, previous slide. In the ideal world, we would have been able to introduce ourselves. I'm hoping that some of you might want to switch on your cameras when interacting with me. I'd like to spend a moment on this slide, and I'd like to find out from you as the recipient or as the participant on today's call, what does the future look like to you? And more specifically, what does the future of work look like to you?
Can I suggest people put their hands up and then come off mute and just speak, please?
Hi, Alvira. Sorry, Jean, am I on speak?
Go ahead.
Sorry, apologies. I'm using my phone to dial in, hence the confusion. It's Melissa from Step Ahead. Thank you so much for the session. I think for me, coming from a very much of a generalist recruitment environment, we've seen that the future of work will probably go into what they call the gig economy, and very much based on projects, specifically looking at specialized skill. So we're quite excited about that and trying to see how can we transform our services to meet the skills.
Those are wonderful words, and very sort of in touch with the discussions that are happening right now. In fact, you'll see that coming up in the presentation later. I'll talk a little bit about the new concept in terms of gig economy. Thank you for that.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, somebody has typed, it's virtual, teams all over the world, and how is what I'm trying to, that is what I'm trying to figure out. I run an accounting and tax practice.
Again, I feel like I'm already getting so much feedback that is in touch with all of the great conversations that's happening around the world. I think now more than ever, we're having these conversations about the future because we seem to find ourselves in that situation where we're starting the future right now. So that's really good. Thank you for that. And I will touch on it a little later.
We don't seem to have any. Oh, there's one that says less personalized interactions.
Absolutely. And I guess that's the virtual aspect and nature of our interactions right now, so that we're limiting face-to-face or in-touch situations to more virtual spaces. Thank you, Melissa. Hoping to get another comment or two about what your expectations are.
Hi, Alvira, Shamel. I've got a virtual accounting practice, and I'm just so glad that everyone seems to now be moving in the same direction, and especially clients that was very apprehensive now sees the. So to me, it is my vision and reality is sort of coming together, and it's very exciting for me.
That's wonderful. And you know what I've seen, and I'm just gonna, sometimes I'll bring in a little bit of my D&I perspective, right? So even for P&G, where we were looking at work-life integration opportunities before, and how the current situation has forced us to, for example, leverage work from home a lot more, making sure that policies and practices are in place. So that has been very different. It has forced us to evolve and adapt really, really quickly. So for all the things that are bad, I mean, these are difficult times. I want to acknowledge that. But for all the things that are bad, there's also some pluses that have come with it. Thank you, Shamel. Are those the only questions, Mikkel, or responses?
No, that was the last one.
Thank you. Okay, so that's exactly the sort of perspective we're going to be dealing with during this session. I am obviously going to leverage my history. I think I sort of left out a lot of my other history other than EdCon, so I've spent a little bit of time with other organizations per my bio. So what we'll be talking about a lot today, and I really want to emphasize, P&G at this stage does not have an official 2030 or 2050 plan, but we have conversations, and obviously we're preparing for the future of world of work. We're preparing through COVID. That's really just fast-tracked a lot of our activities and actions. And then also we have ways of working to deal with sort of the future. So a lot of what you're going to hear today is also a little bit of speculation, a little bit of research. I really enjoy reading up, and I know that you will also do that a lot. Read up on especially different case scenarios, etc., to try and find out what is happening and how do we better prepare for the future. Next slide, please. Next slide, Mikkel. Thank you. So I hope that I've captured sort of a lot of people's ideas when they think about what does the future world of work look like when they talk about it. The slide here really is what I think of it. I think of virtual spaces. I think somebody said we're going to be virtual, less personalized interaction, and that's definitely what I see. In the future, we're probably going to walk around and interact with people virtually using all of our senses, making it an almost interactive real experience without them actually being in the same place. The second picture is the chair is a sleeping pod with your cameras and your screens in front of you. So I'm not sure how work-life integration speaks to that, but we'd be able to sleep, work, eat, and play in the same place. One of the biggest changes I think that's going to affect us is a move from what is considered now 3D to 4D printing. So imagine being able to print a machine that is able to set itself up. Those are some of the ones coming through. Food obviously becoming a scarce resource at this stage, but also how we package, how we grow, the impact on the poor across the world. Those are important considerations for the future as well. As you know, Elon Musk is always trying to get to another planet. And in 20 years, I think initially we said beyond 2000, we'll be traveling to Mars. Well, now it's a little bit later. We're not yet traveling, but that is in the future and in the foreseeable future. My favorite pick on here must definitely be the one on artificial intelligence. So it can be both scary and it can be exciting. It talks about how do we leverage our existing knowledge and skills and have artificial intelligence automate some of our basic practices while we as people move on from there. So that's what I think the future would look like a little bit. Next slide, Mikkel.
Just a reminder, if you could please mute your mics, because we're getting background noise from someone.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mikkel. All right, so I want to discuss some of the competing forces shaping the future right now. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but I think that from an HR perspective, especially from a D&I perspective, especially, and also focusing on some of P&G's focuses in the world right now and our reputation, these are some of the things that we feel will majorly influence what we do in the next 30 to 50 years. So climate change being a really big one. We understand the issues around the world right now. So we foresee this will remain a focus for the world as social responsibility dominates world and corporate agendas, with concerns about demographic changes, climate and sustainability becoming key drivers of society and business. And I think we can already see that. Social responsibility is a huge part of organizations' brand imperative right now. The world and consumers everywhere is asking brands to be more responsible. And the world is also looking at governments, the UN, etc., to make sure that climate change does not increase dramatically and that we put measures in place to sort of ensure that we are not extinct in the next 100 years. So there's likely to be a focus on renewable energy sources like solar farms in the desert, wind power, and so forth, as the world focuses on conserving and protecting the earth. Climate change is a key differentiator for consumers when choosing where they spend their money, and employees may make employment decisions on the value systems of organizations, including their position on climate change. Climate change will continue to have direct impact on food resources. And in the future, we may see a reliance on genetically engineered or modified sources which meet and may be specifically tailored to the dietary need of the population and individuals specifically. I'll move on to technology and artificial intelligence. It is expected that countries and organizations that lead in technologies using artificial intelligence will dominate currently and in future. There are general expected changes that transform both household life and the ways in which firms conduct business. There's also an expectation that the future robots will be working side by side with humans and having decision-making ability. We may see robots doing regular tasks at home and even becoming companions to humans. In the workspace, we may see robots executing repetitive tasks, such as manual labor, like construction work. Other typical technological advancements for the future include self-driving cars, online shopping drone deliveries, controlling your home and all its settings virtually. We're likely to see a huge shift from assisted artificial intelligence, like the GPS in your car, to autonomous intelligence, the ability for artificial intelligence to make decisions on their own. So for example, that might mean that if you have a robot in your house, it might send your car or choose when to send your car to pick you up from work at an appropriate time. I think the most exciting part of technology and artificial intelligence evolving is our ability to explore space travel. As we explore alternative possibilities for settling on other planets, which could decrease the likelihood of extinction on Earth. Do I have a comment, Mikkel?
So none at the moment. Going through the chat. There isn't any at the moment.
Physical and medical enhancements. Now, this part is very, very new, and I think it's a very exciting space because also we don't talk about it too much, but it's really going to come into the workspace a lot and affect performance and productivity. So the idea is in future, opportunities for medical enhancements that already exist might become more advanced in future. It will affect most of us. We currently consider medical enhancements for simple things as corrective measures. So imagine improving your eyesight. In future, instead of wearing spectacles, we might be able to have an infrared zoom lens implanted. Physical enhancements could also be used to enhance our abilities, like our physical performance in sports. Huge area of contention, obviously, currently, but in terms of productivity, this would be a very big enhancement for employees at work. In a recent PWC study, 70% of respondents indicated that they would consider using treatments to enhance their brain and their body if this improved employment prospects in the future. In the future, human effort is maximized through sophisticated use of physical and medical enhancement techniques and equipment. So you can see what we currently use is probably corrective measures or opportunities to go for an operation, if you need your appendix removed, etc., will be more an enabler in the future, where we don't just look at correcting, but we also look at enhancing. And as people are indicating, if this allows them more steady income flows, this is what they're willing to do. Any input on physical and medical enhancements? I really enjoy that topic. So the last topic on competing forces is a mobile workforce. Somebody's just told us they have a virtual tax consultation organization, and that is exactly where the world is moving to. I will talk about a little bit and just touch on COVID and sort of how that's changed and shaped our reality. But for now, by 2030, the UN projects that 4.9 billion people will be urban dwellers. So that's moving into the cities. And by 2050, the world's urban population will have increased by 72%. Okay, that is huge. So as the world and technology changes, borderless work opportunities increase. Automation in the workplace means that repetitive tasks are accomplished through technology. There's no way of stopping automation, and I think that organizations are seeing the need for simplifying very repetitive and manual tasks. Currently, great talent across the globe are competing equally for work opportunities anywhere in the world, and this will become more so in the future as we see virtual platforms expand, allowing artificial intelligence to mimic and assist our senses, making us feel as if we're in the same room with our entire team. Virtual collaboration platforms will also increase in number, but more importantly, in efficiencies. So that makes remote working the new norm, except we won't be calling it remote. I just want to pause on the screen for questions before we get to COVID's impact.
So everyone, if you have any questions for Alvira, could you please input them in the chat and we'll go through them now.
Go to the next slide. So I know that you have done a lot of work on COVID-19. A lot of you are personally impacted. And you know, these are difficult times. These are unprecedented times. And we're all trying to adjust, be agile through it. And remember that we're all in it together. But the anxiety is there, right? And the impact on business, for example, is a reality for a lot of people. So if we remember in December last year, the outbreak was declared a public health emergency by the World Health Organization. And over the course of the next few months, the world experienced unprecedented changes to whether it be traveling, socializing, and living in health standards. Many countries introduced varying degrees of social distancing and lockdown practices to safeguard their citizens. I just want to go through what the International Labour Organization. The impact of the lockdown adopted to mitigate the pandemic has vastly surpassed that of the initial trade shocks and of the travel restrictions introduced soon after the outbreak. These restrictions had significantly, but mainly sector-specific impact. Non-essential services and production were directly affected by the lockdowns, which led to, among other things, a reduction in the number of hours worked and to job losses, especially with those most at risk. countries with greater dependence on service and higher levels of informality and weak safeguards against the termination of yes, have experienced much higher initial job losses. But I think that it's, we generally agree that especially those, so for example, your restaurant workers, people working in homes, etc., those are the people mainly affected, people that are living from check to check. So in the workforce and for educational institutions as well, people were forced to seek virtual engagements. Organizations were required to respond quickly through changes to policy and allowances and restrictions. This also led to new forms of service though. So where you have change like this, there's always an opportunity, I guess they say. And especially speaking to entrepreneurs today, I'm sure that there are a few people that have found some good opportunities in this. So it's led to new forms of services, products, and opportunities. An example of that would definitely be the Zoom virtual meeting platform, who at the beginning of April had 200,000 users, and by the end of the very same month, 2 weeks later, had increased by 100,000 users, according to Forbes. So according to Forbes magazine, the future of work, we'll see a continuation of working from home. Employees can expect to be monitored remotely for productivity. Offices will still exist, but they may look very different. So for example, you might go from an open floor plan and regular desks to having cubicles, replacing all of those desks. So you might be walking into an open floor of cubicles. We expect more video calls and meetings. Again, just echoing what some of you have said already. Next slide, please. So when we went through and we discussed a couple of key learnings from key institutions, PwC has a great workforce of the future study, and I just thought I'd incorporate some of those numbers in here. What you'll note is that 37% of the respondents, and they had just over 1,000 respondents, I believe, were worried about the future of work and automation eliminating their roles. 60% think that only a few people will have stable long-term employment in the future. And 73% think that technology can never replace the human mind. So I'm definitely going to stop here. And I would like, because I think that you would probably have some insights on this that would be valuable.
Before Mikhail starts with the question, can I just try and get Fatima to please go on mute? Fatima, can you hear me? Go ahead, Mikhail.
Okay. If there's anyone, or does anyone want to come off mute and give Alvira some insights from their perspective? If not, we can look at some of the questions that we have. Alvira, you okay to take some of the questions that I see in the chat now?
I think I can see one. I think the question is, I'm just going to read it out. So thank you for the question. I think AI can never replace the ability of the human mind to analyze and evaluate. So that's in line with what respondents in the study have been saying, that there are specific task functions and abilities that artificial intelligence could not mimic. So the future on that is unclear at this point. There are expectations that artificial intelligence would become completely autonomous in about 20 years. I'm not sure of how we would see that play out in our daily lives. We understand and experience AI all the time. Think about your car when your GPS is on, right? Think about at home when we're using opportunities for artificial intelligence. So at this point, I think there's consensus that there are some aspects of humanity that we would not be able to mimic in AI. Okay, next slide, please.
Okay. Q&A. So we're on to recruiting for an unknown future.
Yeah, we are. Okay, so this is the part where we talk business owners, HR people. This is really the part that is very, very important. How do we see this evolving? Recruiting for an unknown future. So the first question would be around, what is the future? Our immediate future is past the COVID-19 impact. We don't yet know how long the pandemic will last and what the future of work looks like immediately after. The future might mean 10 years from now. It might mean 2050. And we can already see some of the competing forces creating a different reality for us, for our businesses, and the areas communities that we operate. The question is, we're probably already en route to this new normal, or whatever that new normal might look like. When we talk about the landscape, so I want to talk about the landscape of employment, really. We're probably going to see a lot more fluid roles. I think my first responder earlier spoke about the gig economy a little bit. So what we now know as positions in organizations, they're likely to shift to project-based teams, which some refer to as the gig economy, lasting for a specified period of time, so clear start and end days with a very clear skills requirement. In future, we are likely to see contractors and freelancers replace the more traditional 9-to-5 role. So it is not thought that we would continue in a very solid 5-year, 10-year in one position career in the future. We'll probably see a decentralized workforce, and I think you can see a little bit of that coming through right now with COVID, that probably where there was restriction before for people working from anywhere. You'll see those restrictions and inhibitors being removed now. So that is one way in which COVID has definitely enhanced our experience and obviously sort of fast-tracked us a little bit. During COVID-19, organizations were forced to reimagine working from home as the new normal. And this is likely to continue as employees may choose work from home as a permanent solution and organizations find mechanisms to monitor productivity. As technology evolves and the need persists, opportunity for online and virtual collaboration will likely increase. I also want to talk a little bit about individual motivation. So in our minds, the employee or the freelancer of the future is a very empowered individual. The indications are that a new generation of employees will be empowered to hold organizations accountable for their social responsibility activities. Employees of the future are likely to increasingly align themselves with organizations that have strong values and work opportunities, which allow them flexibility and creativity. And this is really one of the biggest drivers for the future. Candidates will be less likely to pick an opportunity just because it's available, and will really think through their decisions, will be more employable, and will be more employable globally. The landscape will also have or require a growth mindset. Now, this is very P&G, and it's been really good to see it reflected in some of the studies that I've gone through and some of the research. A growth mindset really relies on the belief that our most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Brains and talents are just the starting point. Building new habits to notice our mindset and shift our focus to one of constant inquiry and development, continuously improving, whether it's skills or perspective, is a winning formula for both individuals and organizations. Increasingly, as the world of work evolves, so too will the requirement for an ever-evolving skill set. A growth mindset is important for innovation and will be more of a requirement in future. So ideally in our landscape, we've got fluid roles, decentralized workforces, individual motivation, and a very empowered employee, and a growth mindset, meaning the ability to innovate, the ability to respond quickly, the ability to identify opportunities as we go. Then the unknown future is also going to have technology and artificial intelligence, which we are definitely not getting away from. I love this because, and this is just a personal note, my grandmother is 84 or around there. She was born in 1933. And I often wonder what it's been like for her to watch the technology continue to evolve, and maybe in the last 15 to 20 years at such a rapid pace. You know, we're now doing virtual calls, and I think it must be amazing to her sometimes to just witness from where she was in 1933, or she was born then, so where she was back then, and how the world's really just changed so much. So technology, the extensive use of recruitment platforms are expected to be the primary method of recruitment. Organizations are less likely to have in-house human resources, departments, and functions, and are expected to outsource recruitment and other HR needs. Talent specialists with assisted artificial intelligence and digital platforms will likely seek the best talent for roles within organizations. Talent will compete globally, and limitations based on geographical location or travel needs will no longer be limitations. All machines, or AI machines, are expected to work side by side with humans in the future, and a certain level of comfort may be required, which we'll talk about in the next slide. Increasingly, there may be collaboration between human and machine. And in recruitment, this could extend beyond mere application platforms and psychometric assessments to AI leveraging data analytics and behavioral analytics to match teams, monitor progress, and predict success. Next slide, please, Mikkel. So what is it that I'm sorry, I just had some feedback there. What is it that we need for the changing workforce skills profile? So automation is key, okay? Anything that is predictive or repetitive in nature is more than likely going to be automated. Those are your basic administrative skills. It could be your basic recruitment functions. It could be HR check-ins. Anything that is repetitive and predictive by nature is more than likely to be automated. And then what happens to us? What happens to the humans? Well, there is a skill set for the future. In the same way as intelligent machines are going to become more prevalent in every business, we as humans are also going to learn to adapt and evolve faster. COVID-19 is one of those examples. What we want to do is focus on the skills that we have that cannot be duplicated. Some of this will include emotional intelligence, empathy. So various roles, the ability to innovate is one of those. So these are the skills that we as people will have to ensure we continuously evolve and develop to ensure that we remain ahead of innovation. One of the other things that we'll have to do is we'll have to be able to leverage artificial intelligence and automation for our good. So being able to have, if you're now living in the middle of town, being able to have a home that's fully automated, artificial intelligence running those tasks while you innovate and deliver services is going to become increasingly important. So my question to you today is, thinking about the skills that we will need to improve and continuously develop through a growth mindset, what are the opportunities that you believe you bring to this world of the future? What has to change? And what are some of those changes that excite you? I'm going to ask that everybody unmutes themselves, or those that are providing feedback unmutes themselves at this point.
Do you want to just repeat the question, Alvira,
Let's go to
please?
the next slide. Nicole. So my question to you is, are you ready?
Hi, Alvira, it's Namhla here.
Hi, Namhla.
I think the most exciting thing for me is that finally organizations, and I'm saying this as a resource consultant, is finally organizations are going to take data seriously. In the sense that it will help in ways to plan for strategy. So strategy is going to be driven by people first, with the data that will be able to be simulated and synthesized across departments, across strategies, across flexible resourcing seasons. What we're seeing now is a huge change in the labor force in the skills market, and also how do businesses meet that halfway. And I think the use of data for me is wonderful, because not a lot of organizations use the data that is sitting at HR. And sometimes when you're coming from the outside and you're saying, so where is your current data? Nobody actually knows. So I think to be able to go through this particular process and the learnings of COVID as we know it, we will definitely, I'm looking forward to the change in the utilization of data.
That's amazing. Namhla, have you given any thought to, because I'm a big supporter and a great fan of data. I think that you can identify your entire organization, your risks, your future through looking at your current set of data. But how do you feel about the ability of artificial intelligence, as they projected, being able to come in and do that data analysis for you, even selecting potential future employees?
I think that's a powerful tool in a sense. There's still going to be a bit of human interaction, I feel. Particularly things relating to the workforce. Even in the most automated workforces, I still firmly believe that there might be a need to integrate. I mean, with all tools that we have in the various organizations that we've worked in, we've always found that for them to remain efficient, there has to be some human interaction with them. And I suppose that then makes it of benefit. So I think the two would merge, but not at the rate that we are seeing now, probably at an accelerated rate.
Yeah, I agree that it's probably going to be sort of a combination of both. I think that organizations might seek to have it more automated. There's obviously a lot less risk, a lot less mistakes, implementation is easier and it costs less. But I agree that we'd probably see a bit more human interaction, especially as it applies to people, right? Having that understanding of people, having the empathy to know when things are changing, how to adapt really quickly. But I do think that this means that we'll have to continuously grow and evolve. And that's going to be a tough one. I think you also see in the future that education levels are really going to be important. So we'll find that maybe people that are now doing not menial tasks, but general repetitive tasks are going to be replaced by automation. And so that's going to require a shift. And I haven't yet found a really good article on what that shift would look like in Africa specifically.
Alvira, we have some questions that came in. Do you want to touch on those?
Okay. Okay, good. I'm going to read it out. My excitement is the ability to do much more without necessarily growing my team. The international interaction is very exciting. That is actually really exciting. It's amazing, right? Before, for example, you would have to say, okay, well, can I move here? Can I move my entire family to, I don't know, Paris, right? To occupy space there? Do I want to disrupt them? And now we no longer have to make those decisions. I think that is one of the opportunities that have been fast-tracked, and that is definitely something that will probably be a new normal. Uncertainty stems from that there are so many different automation tools, and wading through all the information is so daunting. That's really good. I'd like to know, because I have a lot of business owners on here, and this will be education for me, how you decide on which tools to use for your business, if anybody wants to share that, or how do you decide whether it's right for your business? And what are some of the conditions that need to be in place? Thank you for your comment. Human interaction will always continue, as we cannot only rely on automation. There's always the possibility of system failure. I understand that it must be really, really daunting, especially when you read an article and probably the first functions to be eliminated are functions like HR functions, recruitment, etc. So it's really, really scary. But that's where I think the growth mindset comes in. As I mentioned, P&G has really accepted this as part of our ideas for development and developing for the future world of work. And it really does talk about being agile, continuously learning new skills, and adapting to the situation in front of you. So I think that's going to be really amazing. So the next comment is, I think change is inevitable. I agree that emotional intelligence, trust, responsibility, and empathy are key sustainable elements needed for the future job market. Yep. And innovation, right? It is humans that came up with these concepts. It is humans that developed artificial intelligence. It is humans that keep moving us forward. So I do think there's an opportunity for innovation, and then that's really going to separate us.
Alvira, another question that came through to me directly was, how would South African talent compete globally, considering that we have lower levels of education and training versus global counterparts, especially when you compare this across global companies like P&G, and maybe you can touch a bit there on as well diverse nationality that we have in P&G and recruiting and changing talent across the world.
Okay, so thank you for that question. So P&G is one of those multinationals that really, once you're a P&G-er and once you get into the organization, Sort of your future is really dependent on how you develop and how you perform. One of the benefits of that and belonging to a multinational like P&G is that we have workplaces all across the world, of course, and that talent in South Africa competes equally in the global space. So currently, we have talent in Geneva, from South Africa, based in Geneva, based in Dubai, based in Cincinnati. In fact, one of my mentors at the organization is now based in Cincinnati and is from the Cape Flats, like I am. And I think that this is just testament to the opportunity that's available to you. Now, yes, we do compete. We're a very competitive environment, and you do have to do pretty well. But I think that on a global stage, talent has been as good as the rest of it and able to compete on that global stage.
Okay, and there's another one that is, do you believe the labor laws will be changed for the new contractor workforce?
This is a tough one. I'd probably need, yes, no, definitely from the Cape Flats, guys, definitely from the Cape Flats. I'd probably need a little bit more information around which labor laws specifically. I am a big fan of South Africa's labor laws. I think I mentioned this, it may have come up at last year's session as well. I love our labor law. It holds us accountable. It ensures fair practice. And it gives respect to the employee and it gives respect to the organization, right? So I'm a big or fan of our local labor laws, and I think that they are extensive. So if there are specific ones that you want to maybe discuss separately, you can share a note with Michael and he'll share it with me.
And then there's another one that one of the specialists in this person's team is someone who's disabled. What does the future hold for people with disabilities?
So when I talk about, I will presume that your question is around the future world of work. I think we touched on it a little bit. So how medical advancements are already making a difference in the world. So right now we're using it to improve our current lives, but in future we'll probably use it more to enhance our abilities and our performance. One of the articles that I read, and I can share this with you afterwards, is about a suit that allows a contractor to lift double the weight that he could before. So with all of these medical advancements, I think that people with disabilities may be living in a world that they don't need to access situations where they're not able to leverage their skills. One of those, I think, for now is the fact that we are now virtual really is going to help us to recruit and retain employees with disabilities in future. I think that's one of the good things that have come through.
Great. I see we have about 2 minutes left. If anyone else has any more questions for the meeting, could you send it through in the chat? And there's a question on, will this recording be posted? And yes, Jean and the WeConnect team will send this recording or post it to the WeConnect site.
So just to everybody on the call, I am so grateful that you joined and you spent your time with me. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to do this. It has been very different for me virtually. I must say I'm one of those, I hope I'm not showing my age, but it's been really different to make the move from a classroom setting or an office boardroom setting to virtual settings. I think I'm 10 times more tense, etc. But thank you for making it easy. Thank you for being engaging. And thank you for sharing your questions.
Thank you so much, Alvira and Mikal. Thank you. We're all learning. This is a new playground for all of us. The technology sometimes pushes us back a little bit, but we've gone forward a long way. Thank you for your slides and your presentation. There's a lot of thought-provoking slides there that we will definitely share with everybody. I especially liked the fact that I've been left thinking the only thing that puts us ahead of robots, so humans versus robots, emotional intelligence, innovation, and empathy. Amazing. When we start reading about robots being given empathy, I think we should all really panic. And maybe that's not far away. But I just wanted to very quickly tell the people who've joined us about the future webinars that we've got coming up. We've got another one tomorrow on digital transformation with another PNG expert. On the 11th of June, we've got one on cash flow. On the 17th of June, we've got one on warehouse management. And on the 19th of June, we go back to legal and all things legal with Tammy, another female PNG expert who's worked with us at WeConnect in the past. So thank you very much for everybody listening in. As you know, WeConnect is a global organization that identifies, registers, and certifies women-owned businesses and works with corporates like PNG as our member organizations. If there's anybody on the call who's not self-registered with WeConnect, please just go to our website and self-register. You'll get all the invitations to all our webinars. We've also been running coaching sessions, and we have a new class for 2020, who are running the PNG program. So there's a lot of benefits of self-registering, so please do so. Thank you for everybody. We will share the audio and the slides. Just give us a few days to download, send it through to head office, and then put it on the Academy, and then you'll get the link emailed out. But if you've got time, please go to the WeConnect Academy. There's already a lot of recordings on there that you can download and listen and share with your friends. Thank you again, Mikal and Alvira. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody. That's the end of the webinar.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.